live in interesting times. Today's stories. WHO chief denounces the latest deadly attack on DR Congo's Ebola center. Thousands march against climate change in Amsterdam. Bhutanese conjoined twins return home after their separation surgery. The U.S. representative for Venezuela says the blackouts are more than an inconvenience. U.S. freelance journalist detained in Venezuela arrives in Miami. President Trump on Manafort, Cohen, and House vote condemning bigotry. NASA captures unprecedented images of supersonic shock waves. Plus, winter in Hawaii is now colder than normal. Hello everyone, I am Rose Papa Angeles, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. The head of the World Health Organization denounced a deadly attack Saturday on an Ebola treatment center in eastern DR Congo during a visit to the site hours after the raid.
And on security, of course, securitization is not good and it cannot happen. We should rely on community ownership and mobilization. But at the same time, we have to keep our responders, you and all partners, safe from attacks by some armed groups. And then finally, as you know, we're at a pivotal moment in this outbreak, and all partners will not relent until we put an end to this outbreak.
Local officials said gunmen attacked the center at Butembo, North Kivu province earlier Saturday, killing a policeman and wounding a health worker, the latest in a series of attacks. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, speaking after his 4-hour visit to the Butembo clinic, told reporters that the violence in the region was undermining the early progress they had made in fighting the outbreak. In a statement issued later, he said, "These are not attacks by the community. They are attacks on the community." While it broke his heart to hear of the latest casualties, he said, quote, "We have no choice except to continue serving the people here who are among the most vulnerable in the world." The Butembo facility only reopened last Saturday after an attack by gunmen the previous Wednesday forced its closure. Butembo Mayor Sylvain Kanyamanda Mbusa said of the latest attack, shooting started at about 6 in the morning and resumed 30 minutes later with resistance from the army and the police. The health worker who was shot was being treated in hospital. He said, quote, "The army and the police caught one of the attackers, saying he was a member of the Mai Mai rebel group." The mayor said this was a third attack on the center, branding the attackers as terrorists who wanted to kill the sick. On Thursday, medical charity Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, warned that efforts to curb the DR Congo's worst Ebola outbreak were stumbling, blaming security forces and their toxic relations with local communities. MSF pointed out more than 40% of deaths had occurred in communities rather than in Ebola treatment centers. Repairs were set to begin on another North Kivu treatment center in Katwa that was set ablaze on the night of February 24. Ghebreyesus in his statement said the people of Katwa and Butembo, as in other communities affected by Ebola, want and deserve a place to receive care and a chance of survival. They do not deserve to suffer in their homes while infecting their loved ones. They do not deserve to suffer in inadequately resourced health centers while infecting health workers. Ghebreyesus was completing a 3-day visit to the country along with other senior WHO staff and U.S. officials. During his visit, he met President Felix Tshisekedi, other agencies working in the field, and local organizations tackling the outbreak. Both the Katwa and Butembo centers had been jointly run by the Health Ministry and MSF, but after the first attacks, the aid agency announced it was suspending its activities in both facilities. The Butembo Center is now run by the Health Ministry in collaboration with the WHO and the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF. The deadly viral disease broke out in North Kivu last August and spread to neighboring Ituri province. According to the latest ministry figures, it has claimed 561 lives out of 894 recorded cases. Efforts to continue the epidemic, the 10th in the country's history, have been hampered by poor security in the highly unstable region where numerous militia groups are active. Despite the pouring rain, around 40,000 people from all over the Netherlands gather at the famous Dam Square in Amsterdam to take part in a national climate march.
Well, I'm studying the climate, I'm studying future planet studies, and I thought, why not, you know? This is why we're here, because of climate change. We need to do something about it, and I think it's so good that all these people came, because it's raining and you'd rather stay inside, but everybody is so high-spirited that everyone cares about this. It's not just your age, not your nationality, it's a global problem for everybody, and we can all be part of the solution.
We are very concerned with regards to the future of the climate, and we are really afraid that it will affect our situation dramatically. We have 7 grandchildren, and sometimes we are really worried. So that's why we are here. It really should change.
Well, the decisions they have to make really put some money in changes to save the climate and to make things better. And there are things we can't do individually. They have to do it with the country and especially with Europe.
Bhutanese conjoined twins Nima and Dawa Peldan made a triumphant return to their home country on Thursday, able for the first time in their lives to move around without falling over each other. Relatives, well-wishers, doctors, and a media-packed thronged the country's Seoul International Airport to welcome back the 19-month-old girls, who until their surgery in Australia had been joined at the stomach and shared the liver. The girls were born facing each other, and when one walked, the other had to move backwards. A team of 25 surgeons, nurses, and anesthetists at the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne separated the sisters in November. They have made a dramatic recovery since. Sangmo spent 6 months away with the children, communicating with family back home by mobile phone. Father Sonam Chering wept as he saw his daughters for the first time since they left for Australia in October.
Operation pini, namsemi, sanang pure insulin. Ni Thai dong tani waksayola shekpam. Ni rokti operation pili wedung mardumo ani tu sayang turkiola.
At a guest house in the capital Thimphu, Nima and Dawa played with their toys and practiced some of the English words they learned in Australia. Nima walked around nibbling on a bar of chocolate. Dawa can only crawl and will require more physiotherapy. They will return to their hometown of Pwensholing on the Indian border next week. Coming up, the U.S. representative for Venezuela says the blackouts are more than an inconvenience. U.S. freelance journalist detained in Venezuela arrives in Miami. President Trump on Manafort, Cohen, and House vote condemning bigotry. NASA captures unprecedented images of supersonic shock waves. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back.
Abangan ngayong linggo sa Season 2 ng Young Ones, Upon a Time. Season 2 ng Young Ones, Upon a Time. Alas 8 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25.
ASEAN in Focus. Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. U.S. Special Representative for Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, said the major blackout in Venezuela is more than an inconvenience. It affects safety and security in an already dangerous country.
The nationwide power outage throughout Venezuela is a reminder that the country's once quite sophisticated infrastructure has been plundered and allowed to decay under Maduro's misrule. For Venezuelans, this is much more than an inconvenience. It affects safety and security in an already dangerous country. For those that last time I was here, I announced 49. That's going to continue. We are going to continue to use this tool to show these officials and their families they are not welcome in the United States, and to show that fact to all Venezuelans. We are using sanctions and diplomatic actions to pressure the Maduro regime.
Venezuelan government suspended work and shut down schools Friday as it struggled to cope with a massive electricity blackout paralyzing much of the country as President Nicolas Maduro blamed the chaos on U.S. sabotage. Even by the standards of crisis-weary Venezuelans, the blackout, which began late Thursday, is one of the longest and most widespread in memory, heightening tensions in Maduro's power struggle with his U.S.-backed rival Juan Guaido. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez tweeted Maduro made the decision to shut down offices and schools in order to facilitate efforts for the recovery of electricity service in the country. The blackout in the capital was total and hit at 4:50 p.m. just before nightfall on Thursday. Caracas is one of the world's most crime-ridden cities, so people set out for home early, well before the sun went down. Traffic lights went out and the subway system ground to a halt, triggering gridlock in the streets and huge streams of angry people trekking long distances to get home from work. Thousands of homes in Caracas, a city of 2 million people, were without water supply. The power outage had left most of the country in chaos, crippling day-to-day functioning of hospitals and other public services, according to local press reports. Telephone services and access to the internet were also knocked out. A Copa Libertadores soccer game in the city of Barquisimeto was postponed. The capital, Simon Bolivar International Airport, was hit, as were others across the country. Following Maduro's decision to close the borders to keep out humanitarian aid for his people, the country was completely isolated Friday. Guaido, touring Caracas to see the extent of the problem for himself, said on Twitter that the solution to the crisis is that the usurpation stops, reiterating his call for a massive demonstration on Saturday. Venezuelans are warily accustomed to blackouts. They have been common in the west of the oil-rich country for years, but have eventually spread to Caracas and other areas. A U.S. journalist who was detained by Venezuelan security services was released Wednesday after more than 12 hours in custody, one of the networks he worked for reported. Miami's WPLG Local 10 News said on Twitter, Cody Weddle, who worked in Venezuela for several years as a correspondent for a variety of U.S. media, has been released after being detained by Venezuelan authorities. Venezuela's National Union of Press Workers, known by its Spanish acronym SNTP, added he had been taken to Caracas Simon Bolivar International Airport, where he would be deported. The release was also announced by Senator Marco Rubio, a strident critic of the administration of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whose leadership was challenged in January by National Assembly Chief Juan Guaido, setting off an ongoing power struggle. Rubio said, quote, "They do this for one reason alone, to intimidate journalists from reporting on Guaido and on conditions in Venezuela." Kimberly Breyer, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Hemispheric Affairs, had earlier demanded Weddle's immediate release, charging that Maduro prefers to stifle the truth rather than face it. Weddle's disappearance was reported by a non-government organization, Espacio Público, in Caracas. According to the SNTP, Weddle was detained at his Caracas home at 8 a.m. and his work equipment was confiscated. According to the same group, his assistant, Venezuelan Carlos Camacho, was freed after 12 hours in custody. He had been detained by security services at his home, the union said. Oil-rich but impoverished Venezuela is in the throes of a political crisis triggered by Guaido's decision to proclaim himself interim president in January.
It has been a long 12 hours. I was there detained for pretty much the entire day with my face covered with a ski mask. With the counterintelligence folks there. There's a lot of paranoia as well, especially within the armed forces. So I basically reported the truth, which is that in the armed forces there's a lot of discontent, especially among the rank and file, and that's what I continue to hear from plenty of officials. And I reported that, and I guess they don't want that to be public information.
U.S. President Donald Trump on feeling very badly for Paul Manafort, a stone-cold lie by Michael Cohen, and that a recent U.S. House of Representatives vote condemning bigotry shows the opposition Democrats have become an anti-Israel and anti-Jewish party. Trump's remarks came as he was departing the White House to visit tornado-hit Alabama.
I feel very badly for Paul Manafort. I think it's been a very, very tough time for him. But if you notice, both his lawyer, a highly respected man, and a very highly respected judge, the judge said there was no collusion with Russia. This had nothing to do with collusion. There was no collusion. It's a collusion hoax. It's a collusion witch hoax. I don't collude with Russia. I know that in watching and seeing you folks at night that Michael Cohen lied about the pardon. I know it's a stone-cold lie. And he's lied about a lot of things, but when he lied about the pardon, that was really a lie. And he knew all about pardons. His lawyers said that they went to my lawyers and asked for pardons. And I could go a step above that, but I won't go do it now. I thought yesterday's vote by the House was disgraceful because it's become, the Democrats have become an anti-Israel party. They've become an anti-Jewish party. And I thought that vote was a disgrace, and so does everybody else if you get an honest answer.
NASA has captured unprecedented photos of the interaction of shock waves from two supersonic aircraft, part of its research into developing planes that can fly faster than sound without thunderous sonic booms. When an aircraft crosses the threshold around 760 miles per hour at sea level, It produces waves from the pressure it puts on the air around it, which merge to cause the ear-splitting sound. The agency said in an intricate maneuver by rockstar pilots at NASA Armstrong Flight Research Center in California, 2 supersonic T-38 jets flew just 30 feet apart below another plane waiting to photograph them with an advanced high-speed camera. The rendezvous at an altitude of around 30,000 feet yielded mesmerizing images of the shock waves emanating from both planes. Neil Smith of Aerospace Computing Incorporation, an engineering firm that works with NASA, in a post on the agency's website said, with one jet flying just behind the other, the shocks are going to be shaped differently. This data is really going to help us advance our understanding of how these shocks interact. Sonic booms can be a major nuisance, capable of not just startling people on the ground, but also causing damage, like shattered windows. And this has led to strong restrictions on supersonic flight over land and jurisdiction like the United States. The ability to capture such detailed images of shock waves will be crucial to NASA's development of the X-59, the agency said. An experimental supersonic plane, it hopes will be able to break the sound barrier with just a rumble instead of a sonic boom. A breakthrough like that could lead to the loosening of flight restrictions and the return of commercial supersonic planes for the first time since Concorde was retired in 2003. Some countries and cities banned the Franco-British airliner from their airspace because of its sonic booms. When we come back, winter in Hawaii is now colder than normal. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Alamin ang mga pinakahuling kaganapan sa loob at labas ng bansa. Agila Balita. Yun din ang mga sariwang pangyari sa mga lalawigan. Sa Agila Probinsya, ihimayin ang mga pangyayari sa Asia. Hatid ng ASEAN in Focus. Pati na ang mga kaganapan sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo sa Eagle News International. Huwag palampasin ang mga pinakahuling pangyayari sa mata ng Agila. Mga balitang makabuluhan, dapat subaybayan. Dito lamang sa Net 25.
As Eagle Broadcasting Corporation marks its 50th year, it is conducting several activities under the theme EBC Cares, enabling a better community. Health and nutrition are key factors on child's learning and well-being. EBC's feeding program encourages the community to combat malnutrition among children and ensure them a healthy future. EBC's cleanup drive and citronella planting hopes to help the community in caring for environment and preventing diseases such as dengue. EBC's public service program, Paglilingkod sa Bayan, Serbisyo para sa Mamamayan, has opened its doors to government agencies so more people can avail of these services. EBC's blood donation program and medical mission continue to spearhead life-saving projects, and EBC's livelihood seminar teaches and guides those who want to have additional income and business. EBC Cares, serving the people in these interesting times.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Rose Papa Angeles. Yes, there is winter in Hawaiian Islands, and February is normally their coldest month. However, temperatures and conditions this season have been unusual, even for long-time residents. Charmaine Cicera with more.
This year was the most we've ever gotten, and just seeing everyone's reaction to it, and just knowing that the whole world can see this, it's really awesome.
According to a study at the University of Washington earlier this year, a large weather system in the Pacific Ocean was triggering a cold jet stream, causing warmer temperatures in Alaska but unusually cold weather in Hawaii. The most obvious result has been snowstorms on at least 2 occasions on the mountains of Big Island and Maui, where tourists and even residents were surprised to see a blanket of white for the very first time.
We have equipment that we take care of on Haleakala, and with the recent snow that came onto the mountain and it lasts for 6 days, it impacted us quite a bit because we can't do maintenance. There were things that needed to be fixed and we couldn't go up there because the roads are closed due to dangerous conditions.
Although Oahu did not see snow, most of the island did encounter flood-causing rains and blustery conditions, typical around this time of year. Meanwhile, waves on Oahu's North Shore, where surf competitions take place, were attractively large but choppy and inconsistent, making them dangerous even for professional surfers. Just like the shortest month of the year, winter in Hawaii simply came and went. Temperatures for the rest of 2019 are expected to rise beginning in March. Reporting from the Big Island of Hawaii, this is Charmaine Serrera, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Charmaine. There goes my planned winter getaway. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Rose Papa Angeles, and I am 1 with 25.